G'day YouTube, Max right here, and we're off to a great start here. We've got 80 people online, I believe, but only 20 likes. Let's go ahead and smash that like button for me. We're going to hear from Max Keiser today, just talking about just some of the general landscape here of Bitcoin. We've already got a fun question here. Looking forward to answering the questions at the end. Go ahead and type your questions out in the chat if you like it, and on the Discord. I'll be checking both of those later on. But let's start here, and we'll go ahead and we'll hear from Max Keiser.
The jig is up. President of a Latin American country armed with volcano energy is calling out Wall Street and the whole financier class.
Right, Max. Well, if you don't get it by now, after 10 years of Keiser report telling you about Bitcoin, you're never going to make it. NGMI. Nayib Bukele, who is the president of El Salvador, tweeted about, in response to a CNN piece pushing the fact that markets are near all-time highs. Wall Street just doesn't get it. The earnings are not real. It's just more money being issued with the same amount of stocks. A real crisis is coming in the supply chains. Products, ports, fuels, ships, trucks, factories, workers, parts, resources. It's right in front of us.
Right. Well, Bukele, president of El Salvador, the George Washington of the 21st century, as I like to call him, he's onto something there. Stock prices are only going up because the money printing that's going on behind the scenes. This is why Venezuelan stock market hit new all-time highs. This is why Zimbabwe and Iran stock markets are hitting highs, because they print a lot of money there and the value of their currency is collapsing. What I would add is that when you make a statement like that, such as, hey, you know, the stocks are not actually worth anything, the companies aren't improving their earnings in any way, why would anyone buy these things, even with printed money? And the answer is that the companies themselves are buying their own stock with the money printed from the central bank to make the executive stock options go up by incredible amounts of percentage points. So that's really the full picture, is that it's not only just bad economics, it's outright fraud. Unlike in the Soviet Union days, where the world was more differentiated along regional and lines, and geopolitical or even geographic factors came into effect. Because we live in a virtual digital world now, the rate of enlightenment and the rate of Satoshi enlightenment that comes with Bitcoin, it's uneven. So someone like Bukele, the president of El Salvador, can have his Satoshi moment, and because the world is digital, he can call up Jack Mallers over at the Strike app, and he can come and live in El Salvador for 3 months and totally wire the country. They're signing up 100,000 people a day. They're going to be hyper-Bitcoinized within a year. That means that the GDP is going to double or triple, and it's the only country in the world right now that's worth really talking about. Everybody else, because they're on a fiat money standard, it's like talking about countries in the medieval ages that are trying to make do with mud and sticks, really. I mean, he's the only modern country right now, and the IMF has been obliterated. He's going to pay off his IMF loans with volcano bonds, and the World Bank looks stupid, and Paul Krugman of the New York Times looks really dumb, and Nouriel Roubini was absolutely wrong, and you know, Bitcoin's going to 5 million.
Bitcoin going to 5 million. Just slip that in at the end there. But what I really want to talk about here is this concept you said. They are going Bitcoin, El Salvador will be, it'll be in Bitcoin hypernization. Is that what you say? Hyper-Bitcoinization within 12 months. And we are seeing that play out. The last stats I saw, which was a week or two ago, is there were 3 million people using using a Bitcoin wallet as their bank account. What's critically important to understand is in El Salvador, only 2.3 million people have bank accounts. More people are using Bitcoin as their bank account than they do using the traditional banking system. That is an absolutely mind-blowing piece of information. Mind-blowing. Remember, this all happened in the last 2 or 3 months. The speed with which this happens is mind-blowing. And I want you to go back to something he said there. He said that the things, all it takes is you call up Jack Mollers and you get your country to download the Strike app or a variant thereof, like the Chivo app, and boom, your whole country is using Bitcoin. It's for the developing world. This is absolutely mind blowing, and the speed with which it can happen is mind blowing. But here's what I would suggest: for whatever reason, through the grace of God, El Salvador has this gift of a president who has the courage to do this and the wisdom to do it. Both things are required. But if you're living in some other country, I wouldn't be waiting around for this to happen. The beautiful thing about Bitcoin is you don't need to wait for your government to give you permission to do this. Jack Mollers, what he did was he just went and lived in a little beach town, and he just told everyone to download the app, spruiked it, maybe gave away a few coins or whatever, and just made it happen. And 6 to 12 months later, the president of El Salvador took notice and said, well, you're actually making this happen. It's happening. It's there. It works. Screw it. Let's roll it out to the whole country. But if you are living in some other country, if you're in Vietnam, if you're in Nigeria, if you're in somewhere in Africa, somewhere in South America, Southeast Asia, like your country is struggling, is not involved in the first world banking system. Most of your people don't have credit cards. Most of your people don't have bank accounts. And you can help your little village, wherever that is. What's required? You just need to go and encourage people to download the Strike app. From there, everything else takes care of themselves. The people, they say, hey, to friends and family who are in the first world, if you can pay me, if you send me the remittance and you send me with Western Union and they take 30 to 50% commission, and I've got to take a bus for 2 hours to collect the money and all the danger and all the headaches. Can you do me a favor? In your wonderful first world country, can you please sign up to Coinbase, to Kraken, to Bitfinex, to any one of the dozens of exchanges that are there? Link it to your bank account. And for pennies, you can send me Bitcoin to my Bitcoin app. And then they've got to work at their end. Two things need to happen. One, you need to encourage your community, your village, the people that you trade with, your grocery store. Encourage them to be willing to accept Bitcoin as payment. And remember, everyone counts. So again, it's not an all or nothing deal. Maybe you'll be able to convince 10%, 20%, 50%, 100%. I don't know what that number is. But you'll be able to convince some portion who'll be willing to accept Bitcoin. I'll talk about something in a minute to help you increase that adoption. But okay, so now you've got some portion of people willing to accept Bitcoin as payment for stuff. You're getting the Bitcoin through remittance. The first world family member is ecstatic. They don't need to go to Western Union like a Neanderthal. They just do online banking. Boom, you've got the Bitcoin. They're extremely happy with your new system. You've now got your Bitcoin cheaper, faster, better, and you've convinced some of your people to pay it. So maybe your family member still has to do Western Union 2 out of 4 weeks they send you remittance, or 3 out of 4. But it starts, and they're now doing it 1 out of 4 weeks of sending you remittance. They're sending you Bitcoin. Now let's go deal with you. You're in your developing world. What can you do to help improve the use of Bitcoin? Well, what would be wonderful is to have a Bitcoin ATM there. But is the economics necessarily there for this particular village? Or is it necessarily ready and willing and able to, the economics plays out to warrant putting quite an expensive machine there? Maybe not. So now, what can you do? You can now offer a service. So this is a business opportunity for every person in every village all over the world. You say, hey guys, we've got half of the village here, or even a majority of the village runs off to Western Union and spends 2 hours every day. It's dangerous, it's whatever, and they take 50%. I tell you what, I will run to the city center. I'll get on the bus. I'll go. I'm not going to go to Western Union. That's where the gangs hang out. They take 50% there. I'm going to go to someone there in the city will be a crypto trader. There'll be a crypto hub. And even if it's just, I can just figure out a way to trade my Bitcoin for dollars for Bitcoin. And once a week, you be the person who runs to the village, trades some Bitcoin for dollars or dollars for Bitcoin, whichever way it needs to go, and bring it back. And then all of those people who were willing to accept Bitcoin, you can say, listen, I'll trade you back. And you can become a broker in your village. Once a week, you have to run to the city and maybe trade up with a bigger broker to stay liquid. And you come back and you do that. You be that middleman for everybody in the village. And in the not too distant future, because of the economics of Bitcoin are so much better, you'll notice that you have a thriving brokerage business in your village. The whole village is reliant upon you. You're making 5, 10, 15, 20%. It was way better than the Western Union 30 to 50%. And you're making money and you've just improved the quality of life of everybody in your village. You don't need to wait for your government, your president to be proactive. You can be the entrepreneur and solve this problem. And that is what's happening. And eventually, and it happened extremely quickly in El Salvador, but maybe it can happen extremely quickly with you too, or maybe it takes a little bit longer. But eventually, you get to hyper-Bitcoinization. And what does hyper-Bitcoinization mean? Well, I think this kind of sums it up best. I just posted this a couple hours ago, and shout out to Corey who helps me post things on Twitter. This is a meme that goes back all the way back to 2012, 2013. And this is what, it's a very, very nostalgic meme from me. So from the Matrix, it was, so what you're telling me is that one day I can trade my Bitcoin for millions? No, Neo. What I'm telling you is that when you're ready, you won't have to. Meaning Bitcoin is just the currency of the land. And for El Salvador, that has taken place. For the rest of the world, it's coming extremely quickly. And you got to imagine, like if you want to just feel the nostalgia a little bit, you've got to really remember, go back, it's 8, 9 years, Bitcoin's worth $10 a coin. No one's even, you talk about it in cafes, restaurant parties, no one's heard of it. The branding was zero. No one's heard of Bitcoin. Never, ever, ever heard of it. No one knows what the hell you're talking about. You don't know who it is. You got to trade with Mt. Gox in Japan, wire money to some shadowy organization who used to trade baseball cards and other kinds of online tokens. And all of a sudden you're a Bitcoiner and you're going, okay, I've got Bitcoin. What the hell do I do with this? It's like, you got to have the vision. One day there will be hyper-Bitcoinization. And for those people who had that vision, incredible things happened. So very, very cool little story there. By the way, if you're on Twitter, make sure you go to Contrarian Dude and subscribe. Link in the description, I believe. And now I want to shift gears a little thing. I want to touch base. We had a question, I forget where I had it, either in a previous show or via email, but someone asked me about Rune and Thorchain. And Thorchain's really just taken off the last few weeks, so I think it's well worth a mention. So this is a tweet from Eric Voorhees, but this gentleman who, I'm not actually sure his relationship with Thorchain, but our first target is exceeding wrapped Bitcoin on Uniswap. So Uniswap is the largest decentralized exchange. And they can't deal with native Bitcoin token. They can deal with wrapped Bitcoin, which introduces a layer of risk, and they only have 1,500 Bitcoin there. Thorchain has 500 Bitcoin in its pools, ready and waiting to trade. And they just hit a milestone. Is there another tweet here from Eric? Let me slide down a little bit. Is it? Yes. $70 million of volume on Thorchain in the last 24 hours. So Thorchain is just exploding. Now, a little bit of history here. Let's go back. If you may recall, this is the Rune versus the dollar. Way up here with Bitcoin, with Rune trading at $20. I did a 4-part video series. I said this is one of the most exciting altcoins out there and it's just going to change everything. I also said it had just gone on a massive run up and I don't think it's a very good time to buy, but it's something to keep your eye on and keep your eye, because this is a very, very cool altcoin. Now, so this is back in May. So we had the summer of misery for all of crypto, and it was especially miserable for Thorchain. Thorchain had a vulnerability. They had some money stolen, and it was not a good time for Thorchain. It went all the way down to under $3. I think it was $2.80, right? And I was not smart enough to accumulate more at $2, unfortunately. The reason was it was very hard to get at $2 because they shut down trading and you had to do it with the derivatives, and you could do it, but it was not fun, and I just didn't do it. But I did buy here at 12, at 10, and 8. And so my average buy price for Rune is about $10 for what it's worth. Now it's at about $12. But there's two things to consider with Rune. I still am unbelievably bullish with Rune and Thorchain. I think it's an exceptional project. It's an exceptional protocol. And I think it's going to moon with certainty eventually. Certainty is strong. You can never say that. Not in this world. But I am very, very confident in Rune. Second, there is code risk. There's always protocol risk. You always have to know that. So a big part of this decline right here was protocol risk. There was a vulnerability in the protocol, and they halted trading for several months. They reviewed it, fixed it, and hopefully it's come back bigger and better and stronger than ever. But does that eliminate all protocol risk? You can never eliminate all protocol risk. There can be a bug in the Bitcoin code that is, found tomorrow. So you can never eliminate protocol risk. It's always something you need to be aware of. The younger the project, the fewer number of eyeballs that have looked at it, the bigger the risk. Rune is a relatively young project. It has relatively few number of eyeballs that have looked on it compared to Uniswap, compared to Bitcoin, compared to Ethereum, compared to a lot of things. So you have to understand that risk. It's an important risk to understand. But Rune, I'm very, very excited for crypto prices over the next couple of months, as long as we don't have a black swan event. I'll be unbelievably excited for altcoins now, and I think Rune is going to be one of those altcoins that absolutely shine. Very interesting thing to note and to consider. Rune also does very, very well when Bitcoin does well, because of this fact here. It is, to my knowledge, it is the leading exchange of where native Bitcoin is the leading decentralized exchange where native Bitcoin can be traded. So that means no KYC, no AML, trading native Bitcoin. You can also put it on there and get get yield on native Bitcoin. It's a very, very special project. But there is that protocol risk. Please beware. All right, I'm going to kick it over to questions. I'm going to start with Discord. Let me jump in here. Oh, let's get out of here. Actually, I don't want to be in there. Where do I want to be? I want to be in Success Squad. And actually, that's the Thorchain LP chat right there. So let me just check. There's a couple of questions here. First from Scorpio. Hey, Max. I've just watched your excellent YouTube clip with Raoul Paul. Bitcoin and crypto will explode on this date. At the end, you expressed some disappointment about the number of live viewers. This isn't a question by the lookout. I will help that out. I got to make sure I got questions here, and that's you responding to Scorpio. Okay, so I will read those, guys. Thank you for that, but they aren't questions, so I will come back to that in a little bit. Let me head over to the YouTube chat, and I'll share with some questions. Stefan asked the first question of the day, which I really wanted to get to. Is there too much leverage in the market currently that could be cause for a correction soon? You are absolutely correct, Stephen. Sorry, I said Stefan. I don't know why I said that, but Stephen. You are absolutely correct, Stephen. There has been an uptick in leverage. And if you'll, I was looking at the data earlier today, and the leverage has spiked again in the Asian markets, which is where it does spike, because you can't spike the leverage in the Western Hemisphere markets because it's against the law here. But they do allow higher leverage in the Asian markets, and that has usually, when that happens, there's a little bit of flush. Every now and again, there'll be Bitcoin price will pull back. So there's all these. It's a regular cycle that happens quite regularly. And so yes, it is something to be considered in the short term. There is absolutely a potential there for a little bit of a flush in the market. And I'll talk about something else in a minute. I'll tie into that again. David Weeks, if we go to digital gold-backed currency, what would happen to the Bitcoin price? Do you mean a government-sanctioned digital gold currency, or are you saying just the digital gold product? Digital gold product is absolutely no threat to Bitcoin whatsoever, done in the private market. If governments chose to do a digital gold-backed currency, that would be very interesting. It would be very concerning. It's nowhere near as safe as Bitcoin, in my opinion, because eventually they can just take all the gold out of the vaults, and you've got nothing. Bitcoin is not like that. It does have value despite having no physical attack vector, and that's all the difference in the world. But if the government comes along and says, "Hey, we're going to a gold-backed currency," I can see the price of Bitcoin getting hit for a little time until they confiscate some gold, and then everyone rushes back to Bitcoin. No, not that question. How much of a coin do you need to make to make staking worthwhile. You can believe you can stake with very small amounts in most places. MasterCard is going to be, MasterCard is going to Bitcoin. We have ETFs all over the world. Yes, you are right. It's just everything is moving very, very fast. Let's see. So if someone has a lot of alts, would you recommend them sell all of them and move to BTC only? No, I wouldn't recommend going to BTC only. Let's take a quick look at Bitcoin price here, in which I'll go to this from the top of my 3 charts because, first of all, let's notice BTC. Let's go to BTCD. It is declining. Have we broken resistance here? Let's see. Yeah, we're flirting with the bottom edge of this resistance right here, and we're flirting with this line. If we break through this line here, I think you'll find Bitcoin dominance head down towards 40 again. And that would frustrate me no end. I think that would delay the next leg of the bull market if it happened. Time will tell. Time will tell. Also on the Bitcoin chart, I want to have a look over here. And we still have the second of these Fridays come in, but you'll notice Friday was this day right here at the top. I made a video, said don't be surprised if we have a big pullback right here for this Friday. We did. We have a second Friday. I am looking forward to the beginning of November here and the first 2 weeks of November. I think that'll be the time we'll see Bitcoin skyrocket up, if we see Bitcoin skyrocket up. As always, keeping an eye on, just right now, I just feel extremely vulnerable with the macro markets. We've got the dollar flirting with its bottom resistance line here. And in fact, I'm going to move this a little bit. I don't like to move them, but I think it'd be more accurately charted there. More coincides with that top, with the top of that candle, and it puts all these bodies in here, which I like a little better. So I'm going to do that. So we've got these 2 lines coming up here. It's just going to be very interesting. You've got to watch the DXY and you've got to watch the Dow Jones. Dow Jones heading up to this point I referenced earlier. So when we were about here, I dropped this guy up here at the top. I want to make sure you can see that. Can you see that? Let's bring it into the thing. Oh, yeah, there you go. So this price target right here, I can move that a little bit, be a little bit more accurate, but around the 3,600 mark, you see when we're about here, I said if we're going to have a top of the Dow Jones and then we'll have a crash, it'll probably be around 3,600. We're working our way up towards it, and that's going to be interesting to look at. So these are the things we want to be interested in. It's really going to give us a clue. I would love for these macro concerns to just kind of get out of my mind, but they're not out of my mind just yet. There are reasons to keep an eye on them still. Once they get out of my mind, I'll certainly become a lot more bullish on crypto. I am bullish on crypto now, let's be clear, but I'll become my certainty level will increase significantly. Let's see. And if you're into alts, just to finish off that answer, John, I would leave your money in alts. If not, definitely wild swings. I sell all my altcoins for Bitcoins. I wouldn't do that. No. But maybe keep an eye on the Bitcoin dominance. Let's see where it bottoms out, and it may be a time to jump into Bitcoin when that happens. Let's see how it interacts with those trend lines. And again, you just trim your position here or there. All or nothing, I wouldn't recommend that. What is your opinion on Michael Burry's correction view? Yeah, so Michael Burry, what's he calling? He's calling for a crash. Yeah, he's causing for a big crash. So listen, there's all kinds of views, and I just don't know. You've got some experts saying massive deflation. You've got some experts saying massive inflation. You've got some people saying the stock market will never crash again because they'll print as much as it needs. Listen, you just got these, I don't know. I'm not an insider and I don't know. And believe me, these things are controlled to the tick. Like, in case you don't know, we're at a massive inflection point for humanity. Freedoms are being eroded every day. We've got Janet Yellen talking about a new tax on unrealized gains. And, I mean, this is just full communism, full fascism. This is just an absolute massive explosion of government taking over everything from everyone. Now, I'm not saying I think that bill is going to pass, but usually when they first start talking about it, it takes a few years, and eventually it gets in. But we are talking about the complete destruction of humanity here. We're talking about Hunger Games situations where they just want to take everything off of everyone. You know, the plan of the Great Reset is to take everything off of everyone and you'll be happy. There is no way in the world you'll be happy under a fascist/communist government. In case you're one of these people who think fascism and communism are these like opposite ends of the spectrum, you're just so far detached from any knowledge of politics whatsoever. Fascism and socialism, communism are all at the same end of the spectrum, of the political spectrum, which is totalitarianism. If left, right is irrelevant. What you're interested in is the size of government, and they are at the same end of the government, same end of that spectrum, which is massive government, and you are having government power exploding all over the world. They are becoming a bigger part of the economy by printing money. They're stealing everything off of everyone through inflation. But we have this mechanism called Bitcoin, so we can hide out in Bitcoin and avoid that theft. Now they're saying they want to come and tax unrealized gains on things, real estate, everything, which would just absolutely crush the economy in every way, shape, or form. It's a complete disaster. You're going into a very, very dark time. Bitcoin is your best defense against that, but at the same time, we have to get together and kind of fight this big time. Like, we need to be out in the streets all day, every day. We need to be dismantling the explosion of government. We need to be reducing government, not building it up, not tolerating this expansion of government power. So very, 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 very important stuff. And by the way, Thorchain is going to be a really fun thing with privacy coins. Hopefully privacy coins get launched on Thorchain soon, and you'll be able to trade any of your coins for a privacy coin. You'll be able to go back to other coins. No one will be able to track what you have, where you have. It's a critically important component to the fight against this tyranny. So jumped around a little bit there, but yeah, Fidel, thank you for reminding me. Smash that like button, guys. I will be here tomorrow. I think we're going to hear from Peter Schiff tomorrow. So make sure you're here tomorrow at noon Eastern time. Hope you guys enjoyed yourself. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much. Take care.